Hello and welcome to the agenda. I am Ajay Kaul. Today we will discuss the developments that led to the exodus of Kashmiri Pandits from Kashmir in 30 years back. "31 years back on this day, rather the night of this date, Kashmir Valley witnessed unprecedented developments which led to one of the worst human catastrophes of the recent times. Deafening sloganeering threatening the Kashmiri Hindus erupted at the dead of night, creating extreme scare among the minuscule community. This scare led to the exodus of the entire community from their ancestral land. On the anniversary of this catastrophic development, we will revisit the situation that prevailed at that time. We have with us and Dr. Ramesh Raina, leader of Kashmiri Samaj. From Srinagar, we are joined by youth leader Abid Salam, who is also a corporator. But before we begin our conversation, let's have a look at this small report.
On the night of 19th January 1990, a deadly scare was created amongst the minority Hindus in Kashmir by extremists sloganeering blaring through amplifiers across the valley. Such was the scare that the entire minuscule community was forced to leave their ancestral land and homes. Over the next few weeks, more than 4 lakh Pandits left Kashmir to live as refugees elsewhere in the country. The incident of 19 January 1990 occurred after a series of targeted killings of the Pandit community members by Pakistan-sponsored terrorists. And even while the community members were fleeing from Kashmir, the killings and rapes continued. Since then, there has been a lot of politics over the issue, but not much has been done for the community, especially its rehabilitation or return. There has been a lot of lip service, but no action in concrete terms. The community members, while yearning for return to their homeland, have got settled at various places across the country. The episode stands out as one of the worst human catastrophes, but there has been no justice or closure for the community. It is 31 years and counting. Bureau Report.
Okay, let's welcome our guests, Dr. Raina and Abid Salam from Srinagar. Welcome to the program. So I'll begin by going to Dr. Raina. So when we talk about the developments 31 years on this day, or rather night, how will you recall those developments?
First of all, thank you Ajay for giving me an opportunity to speak here. You see, the exodus of Kashmiri Pandits, as we call, I think we need first of all to understand that it is not an exodus. It is in fact the eviction of Kashmiri Pandits from their homes and hearths. Recalling the incident of this eviction from our homes, we need to understand the whole process in its totality. The process did not start overnight. In fact, if you recall the memories of 1986 Anantnag riots, when the spiritual centers, religious centers, temples of Kashmiri Pandits were vandalized and desecrated, the commentators described that as a dress rehearsal prior to the exodus. Therefore, the process of putting Kashmiri Pandits on notice had started much earlier. Now, recalling the period, the policy that was put in place, kill one, scare 1,000.
Right.
The manner in which Kashmiri Pandits were killed, one Kashmiri Pandit was killed, he was killed in such a way so that the people who look at him get frightened. And it is that frightening and the scare that forced Kashmiri Pandits to leave en masse. Otherwise, can you imagine Kashmir was denuded of Kashmiri, more than 50% of Kashmiri Pandits during the intervening night of January 19 and January 20. I remember there was one Mr. Sapru, Naveen Sapru, who was killed, and he was killed in such a manner that whosoever walked that way got frightened. Similarly, there was one Mr. D.N. Chaudhary who happened to be the manager in the cement factory at VN probably. He was killed and his body was hanged from a tree. His eyes were gouged. His whole body was burned with cigarette bits. So here lies the thing that it was a well-planned policy, well-planned understanding that Kashmiri Pandits need to be forced out. For example, use of mosques, use of print media, all those things. For example, there was a slogan, ऐसे Kashmir Batnev Sant Bataurosti. That means we want Kashmir without Kashmiri Pandits but with Kashmiri Pandityanis. Such sickening slogans were a common sight those days. Therefore, to stay under the circumstances in the valley of Kashmir was at all not possible. But what added to the discomfort of Kashmiri Pandits was when Pandit Tikalal Tiplu was killed on 13th of September 1989. And Tikalal Tiplu was a quite well-known Kashmiri Pandit leader of the valley.
So
his silencing was a message to Kashmiri Pandits that an important political voice of Kashmiri Pandits was silenced. So therefore, Kashmiri Pandits were rendered as politically orphaned.
Dr. Ramesh Rana, you narrated a lot of developments about what happened during that time. But please tell, for the benefit of our viewers, what happened on January 19? Why is it called Holocaust Day, or why it is called the Exodus Day?
See, I personally feel that we must look at the decision made by National Human Rights Commission in 90s that Kashmiri Pandit exodus was akin to genocide. Therefore, putting it very closer to genocide means, one, that Kashmiri Pandits, the exodus of Kashmiri Pandits, the eviction of Kashmiri Pandits was duly recognized by the National Human Rights Commission of India. That means that the legal connotation of it is that it got recognition from the people of India. That is one. And number two, if we take that judgment into consideration and if we look at that judgment in totality, then we don't need to defend ourselves, or we don't need to oversimplify the argument that why it should be called Exodus Day. My counter question to you, Ajayji, would be, why shouldn't it be called Exodus Day? Why shouldn't
I wanted to ask, what happened on this day that it is called Genocide Day or Exodus Day? What happened?
Yes, as I said in my earlier presentation, that Kashmiri Pandits, almost 40 to 50% Kashmiri Pandits left during the intervening night of 19th and 20th January. That is a sufficient reason for us to understand that it has to be an Exodus Day, nothing less, nothing more.
Okay. So, Abid, I am coming to you. You heard, I guess you heard Dr. Ramesh Rana, what he said about the Exodus and the development that took place at that time. So what will you say on that?
See, I totally agree with the panelists over there. As far as values are concerned, and I am 94 born, Mr. Ajayji, the Exodus happened before 5 years of my birth. But what I have heard from my parents and from my grandparents and from the rest of the generation of that time, it's not actually the Exodus, it's actually the cutting of a jugular vein of a body. जिस वेन के बगैर इंसान सांस भी नहीं ले सकता, जहाँ तक मैंने सुना है. And the generation of my time, we truly we per day dream of that having friendship with Kashmiri Pandits. We truly dream of having planes with Kashmiri Pandits. We truly dream of having studied with being the taught of the Kashmiri Pandit teachers. But unfortunately, some anti-Hindu elements who actually raised the controversy that time by using the Liberation Front and another bloody radicalized organizations who raised anti-Pandit and Hindu elements, and and they threw our brothers out of the valley. But unfortunately, the government of that time and government of today UP, except playing politics, they have done nothing. तो जहाँ तक कश्मीरी पंडित के एग्जोडस का सवाल है, मुझे लगता है कि ये एक शायरों को काटा गया है. हम भी ये तमन्नाएं करते हैं कि काश हमने किसी पंडित टीचर के पास पढ़ा होता, क्योंकि I truly believe that Kashmiri Pandit teachers are so much blessed with the knowledge from Almighty Allah. उनको अल्लाह ने ऐसा विजन दिया था, ऐसी तकलीफ थी खुदा की कश्मीरी पंडित की, जिनकी वजह से अगर कश्मीर जो है ये तालीम की रोशनी से अगर फैज़याब हो चुका है या हो रहा है, मुझे लगता है ये उन्हीं कश्मीरी पंडितों की दान है अभी तक. और अनफॉर्चुनेटली इन जो है हमारे भाइयों को यहाँ से निकाला गया, और निकालने वाले ही कोई पराये नहीं थे, क्योंकि पराया मुल्क जो है वो हमेशा ही जो है बंदूक किसी और के कंधे पे चलाता है. तो वो कंधा हम कश्मीरी थे, हमारे कंधों पर रखे उन्होंने बंदूक चलाई, और अनफॉर्चुनेटली हमें ही यूज किया गया, आपस में लड़वाया, जिसकी वजह से जो है इन लोगों को यहाँ से जम्मू कश्मीर जो है ये मजबूर हो गए. जम्मू कश्मीर ये मैं ये नहीं कहूँगा छोड़ने के लिए, मैं कहूँगा कि इन विचारों को निकाला गया. मेरी सिंपैथी, मैं ये इसलिए नहीं कह रहा हूँ कि ये लोग सिंपैथी गेन करें या मैं सिंपैथी गेन करूँ. बीइंग अ मुस्लिम, मेरा दिल इस टाइम बोल रहा है, मेरा दिल रो रहा है कि कश्मीरी भाई जो है वो इस वक्त हमें जो है अपने पंडित भाइयों से डिबेट करना आता है. कोई दिल्ली में बैठा है, कोई जम्मू में बैठा है. होना ये चाहिए था कि हम इस वक्त चैनल पे ये डिस्कस करते कि मेरा कश्मीरी भाई एक श्रीनगर में होता, एक बारामूला में होता, एक सोपोर में होता, एक ट्राल में होता, और हम ये डिस्कस करते कि जम्मू कश्मीर की कोई तरक्की की राह की तरफ किस तरह गामजन करे. लेकिन अनफॉर्चुनेटली एंटी हिंदू एलिमेंट्स और रेडिकलाइजेशन ने और गंदी पॉलिटिक्स ने और हमसाया मुल्क ने हमें इस नतीजे पर पहुंचाया कि आज जो है हमारे पैनलिस्ट कई फॉरेन में बैठे हैं और कई जम्मू में बैठे हैं, क्योंकि उनके पास यहाँ पे कश्मीर में रहने को घर नहीं है. अगर कभी आना चाहते हैं, लेकिन अनफॉर्चुनेटली जान का डर लगा रहता है. कोशिश हुई थी, आप भाइयों ने कोशिश की थी, कश्मीरी पंडित भाइयों ने कोशिश की थी कि हम जो है यहाँ पे क्या कहते हैं वापस आ जाए. लेकिन फॉर्चुनेटली जो रिसेंटली जो पंडित सरपंच की जो किलिंग हुई, तो ऐसे इंसिडेंट्स में जो है क्या कहते हैं बहुत सारे ऐसे एलिमेंट्स क्रिएट किए, जिसकी वजह से जो है लोगों में फिर वो तशद्दुद पैदा हो गई कि हर एक भाई जो है यहाँ पर आने से पहले, यहाँ पर जमीन से पहले, यहाँ पर बात करने से पहले जो है 1000 बार सोचेगा कि क्या मेरी फैमिली सिक्योर रहेगी. अगर यहाँ की सियासत ठीक होती, यहाँ की जो है पॉलिसी ठीक होती, यहाँ की जो लीडरशिप है वो अगर ठीक होती, तो मुझे पूरा यकीन है कि आज हम जो है अपने भाइयों के साथ रह रहे होते, हम त्योहार मनाते, न कि इस बात पर हम डिबेट करते कि कश्मीरी भाइयों को यहाँ से क्यों निकाला गया. जहाँ तक मेरा सवाल है, मेरा ताल्लुक है, मेरा दिल रोता है कि काश मैं उस टाइम में पैदा हुआ होता जब वो, मुझे लगता है कि वो ऐसा वक्त था कि जब इतना अमन कश्मीर में था, जब बकरी और शेर एक ही नदी पे पानी पीता था. मुझे लगता है आई विश कि दैट टाइम शुड कम एंड दैट टाइम वुड हैव कम कि मैं एक बारी फिर हम वो विटनेस करते, वो भाईचारा, एक बारी हम हैरत एक साथ मनाते, एक बारी हम वो फसल जो निकाला जाता था वो साथ में निकालते, एक बारी जो हम अपने ईदों पर आया जाया करते थे, जब वो अखरोट का त्योहार आता था, तो मैंने घर वालों से सुना है कि कितना हसीन मंजर होता था उस टाइम पे. लेकिन अनफॉर्चुनेटली यहाँ की सियासत ने कुछ ऐसे लोगों को इस्तेमाल किया हम लोगों के खिलाफ कि हम एक दूसरे की जान के दुश्मन बने बैठे हैं.
Right. So, Dr. Raina, you heard Abid Salam, what he expressing his sentiments and what should have been done, and he also spoke about politics. The governments of that day and after that also did nothing about this. What will you say?
See, first of all, I wish to compliment this young man for having the passion and the sentiments like that. Normally, we don't hear such a language these days. Anyway, as far as the politicians are concerned, you see, you don't have to talk about politicians. Let's talk about the political psyche. And the political psyche of Kashmir has been built in 1947 when Kashmir aligned with India and started its journey as a part of Indian state. We have to understand when Kashmir started its journey with India, Sheikh Muhammad Abdullah, the tall leader of J&K, led it from the front. But over a period of time, the politics of Kashmir started wobbling. And what happened? The government of India had to initiate measures. For example, what measures? What was the kind of politics that became part of the Kashmiri Muslim psyche? Was that it started with a negative secularism. For us to understand the negative secularism would mean that the secularism there in the valley in practice was anti-Hindu and anti-India. With the result, government of India. Now, how did this, what is the genesis of this? The genesis of this negative secularism starts from the day when Constituent Assembly of Kashmir, J&K, was elected, when all the 75 members belonging to National Conference got elected, when Khalid DC became the instrument, and all those MLAs who got elected to National, this J&K Constituent Assembly were said jokingly that they are made by Khalid DC. Therefore, to contest this thing, the Indian political class remained quiet. They, instead of contesting it, they chose a path of entering into an accord. Then comes the Sheikh Jawaharlal Nehru Accord of 1952, where the contours of the rest of political journey for Kashmir started. Then thereafter, not remaining content with that, they started, there was another accord that's called Beg Parthasarthi Accord of 1975. Not content with that, then there was another accord of 1986 between Rajiv Gandhi and Farooq Abdullah, known as Rajiv Farooq Accord. So all these trends set a psyche, a political psyche, that Kashmir is different from India, it's not part of India. And this was fuel.
No, but my question was whether, as Abid said, that governments of the day did nothing about the exodus of Kashmiri Pandits. And even after those, the governments, I mean central government, state government, did nothing. What will you say on that?
Yes, definitely. I'm coming to that. See, my argument, I left it halfway. See, the question is that the kind of politics that evolved in Kashmir, it was Muslim-centric and Kashmir-centric, because J&K comprised of three regions.
We are not talking about only J&K government. We are talking about central government. What did central government do when the exodus of such a 4 lakh people took place? What was their role and what did they do?
See, they did nothing, absolutely nothing. When Kashmiri Pandits got evicted from their homes and earths, there was no sympathy, there was nothing, except they could have stopped. There were forces, because government of the day, they had everything. Police was under their hold, army was under their command, all the civil society institutions were there. They did nothing to stop it. In fact, let me say that probably there might have been some hidden hand also, and once this flow started moving out of Kashmir, and then they started crying hoarse that look here, the exodus has taken place. In fact, government of the day, you can understand very well, Farooq Abdullah resigned the day Jagmohan was appointed as governor of Jammu and Kashmir, and he left the whole state in limbo. And thereafter, the already angered rabid fundamentalists, they took advantage of the situation and ensured, as I said, that the process had started from 1986 onwards, and the process took its final shape in 1990 because of lack of governance, because of lack of sincerity, because of lack of honesty, commitment and dedication from any quarter, be that central government or the local government. Since local government was absent there and Jagmohan had joined, then there was a political vacuum.
And several people are claiming that it was Jagmohan that who who created that environment, or maybe asked Kashmiri Pandits to leave Valley? How do you
See, Ajayji, you have to understand, the mainstream politics of Kashmir has to bear the brunt about the exodus of Kashmiri Pandits, and they have to put some blame on somebody. The blame game, the buck stopped at Mr. Jagmohan. For God's sake, tell me one thing: if it was Jagmohan who made us go, who encouraged our displacement from the Valley of Kashmir, then how did National Human Rights Commission say that it was akin to genocide? If it was a sponsored exodus from Jagmohan, then how did Supreme Court of India accept the civil writ petition from All India Kashmir of Samaj, where we put very clearly that you decide the onus of for exodus, who led this exodus and who ensured that Kashmiri Pandits should be displaced?
Abid, there is a narrative being spread by many people in Kashmir, like it was Jagmohan who was responsible for the exodus of Kashmiri Pandits. What have you heard, and what do you say on that?
I have also heard about that narrative that is being continuously spread since the exodus of Kashmiri Pandits, that it's Jagmohan only who did this act, and from whose policies have gone wrong, that has caused the exodus of Kashmiri Pandits. But on the another side, it may be kind of that time of politics also. I don't agree, but I just suspect, and I can just think about it. But on the another side of the coin, that it's also the narrative that is separated by the Pakistani sponsored groups here in the Kashmir, that is Hurriyat and other separatists and the rest of the people. So it's not actually just.
But Abid, if we go by the narrative about Governor Jagmohan being responsible for exodus, how can it be possible? How can 4 lakh people leave just because some governor is saying, even if he is saying that you leave?
I told you earlier that I was born after the exodus of Kashmir.
No, I say you must have heard, because narrative is still there.
The narrative is still there. So I may see, being a layman, actually, I consider myself, for some time, let me consider myself as a layman. So okay, it can be the part of the story. But one thing is there, it can be the only the 1/10 part of the story. But the 99% of the majority and the 99% of the narrative is being separated by the Hurriyat people only, that Kashmiri Pandits are not the jubilee. They are not even the part of the Kashmir right now. So it's the narrative, this Jagmohan wala narrative is also being separated by the Pakistan itself. It's being separated by the Pakistani sponsored groups also. It's being separated by even some of the mainstream politicians like Engineer Rashid also, who have been booked by the Honorable High Court, and it's being separated by the National Conference also, PDP also, Congress also. And even I can say BJP also. So these political parties are continuously, separating.
But my question, Abid, is how much believable is it? How much?
It's not actually believable, because that time there was the Kashmir was wholly and solely, much and more into the mainstream politics. They were not dependent on governor. That time it was chief minister also, and the rest of the portfolios Kashmir was witnessing that time. So it's not only the governor who actually ordered and told the Kashmiri Pandits to leave the valley that caused the exodus. It's actually that the politics of that time also, and the narrative is narrative of that time, the then narrative by Pakistan also, that has caused the exodus. So it's not, we cannot say that it is wholly and solely Mr. late Jagmohan was responsible for this thing. So we need to understand the fact. It is actually the Jagmohan wala narrative is also separated by the sponsored agencies here in the Kashmir. So being a student of politics, and I have been in journalism also, I have studied, and I was the first guy who was attacked for working on a cement project for Kashmiri Pandits. So I have studied deep about Kashmiri Pandits. My father was having, good relations with Kashmiri Pandits. Even I still used to go to their homes in Jammu also. So what I have heard from them also, what I have heard from my elders also, so it was just that time a narrative created by sponsored agencies to manipulate the exodus of Kashmiri Pandits and put the blame on Mr. Jagmohan only.
Right.
So उस टाइम की सियासत को, उस टाइम के लोगों को करने के लिए कुछ नहीं था, कोई बंदा नहीं था जिसको उस टाइम ब्लेम करते, उन्होंने उठा और जगमोहन के ऊपर ब्लेम
So the tragedy is that, so the tragedy is some people are still spreading that narrative. So, but before we have to conclude, one last question to Dr. Raina. Now, Article 370 is being, portrayed as something which has changed everything in Jammu and Kashmir or Kashmir. So, do you think after abrogation of Article 370, it is possible for Kashmiri Pandits to return, or has it changed anything for Kashmiri Pandits?
See, first of all, the societal changes that have taken place in Kashmir, there's a huge difference between pre-90 Kashmir and post-90 Kashmir. During these 31 years, a lot of water has drained down the Jhelum. But one thing is very clear, that the process government of India began with scrapping Article 370 is not likely to give fruit maybe overnight, maybe 10 years down the line, maybe 20 years down the line. It will take its time. But one thing is very important for Kashmiri Pandits, that Kashmir has to remain as their core constituency, because if we lose Kashmir as our core constituency, then probably we may not be in a position to get back to where we have come from. What does Kashmir as core constituency mean? But you must remember, during pre-partition days, when a Hindu from Lahore used to visit Delhi, when a Hindu from Sindh used to visit Delhi, he used to call himself proudly that I am a Hindu from Sindh, I am a Hindu from Pindi. But after partition, they lost their core constituency of Sindh, they lost their core constituency of Rawalpindi, they got assimilated in the broad stream of the country. So today there is no Hindu from Pindi, there is no Hindu from Sindh. And similarly, if we lose Kashmir as our core constituency at any given point of time, we are there to get assimilated in the broad stream without getting connected with Kashmir.
Right.
Therefore, my take on this thing is that two things need to be done. One, that you need to create a legitimate minority space in the valley of Kashmir, because post-exodus there is no minority space, it has all been filled. And number two is that you need to have a political empowerment of Kashmiri Pandits. Now, what does political empowerment mean? Political empowerment means that you have mainstream political parties, their Congress, National Conference, PDP. Tell me, you don't have even a one Kashmiri Pandit holding any responsible position there in the political parties of the J&K.
Right.
Therefore, you need to have enough participation of Kashmiri Pandits in the political parties to get empowered themselves.
Yeah, a space needs to be created for Kashmiri Pandits
Definitely.
in Kashmir Valley.
Definitely.
But the time of this program is over. Thank you both of you for participating in this debate. This is all in the agenda today. Thanks for watching. I'll be back with another important topic tomorrow. Till then, goodbye.